So before we get started with finding out about like triangle angle relationships, we need to make sure that we understand some basics. So the first basic I want us to talk about is how we name triangles. And first of all, there's a little typo here. This, instead of being UWV, should be UVW. Okay, so make that change real quick. So when we name a triangle, we trace the letters in order to find the one that we need. Now, I'm going to show you why that matters right now, just so you can understand it. So if you look down here, if all we did was look for angle, so this is numbered a little bit different. Let's pretend that we had, like, I don't know, this was F, G, H, and then there was another dot here, I. Okay? There are two angle H's. Technically there's three, but there's two angle H's. D and B are both an angle H. So when we have the possibility of multiple angles with the same name, we have to name them by more than just that letter. We have to use three letters to name them. So let me show you what that looks like. If I want to find angle WVU, okay, so first of all, let's talk about one of the things that we know about triangles. We know that their angles add up to 180. Okay, so we're not going to find the measures of these angles yet. We're just gonna like kind of figure out where they are. Okay, so if I know that this should all add to 180, I have 42 plus 64 plus something equals 180. Well, if I add up 42 plus 64, I get 106. And then if I subtract 106 from 180, I get 74. Okay, so that means this angle is 74 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next part. But for this, the way I'm going to figure out what angle WVU is I'm literally going to trace angle WVU. So I go from W to V and back to U again, and that's how I figure out what that angle measurement should be. And what angle do I see right in the middle there? I see 74. Same thing with UVW. That angle could be written two ways depending on which one I start with, but I have to go through V to get there. This one is also 74. Now with a different color, I'm going to show you how we would find angle WUV. So again, I start with W, I trace over to U, and up to V. And what's in the middle? 64 degrees. So 64 is what I'm looking for. Same with VUW, is also 64. Now again, I know you're thinking, why can't I just call it angle U? Because we're going to start to get to some really complicated looking things here. So like, what if you have something like this? And look like, so right here, if let's say this is point A, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 angles with A in the middle. So it's not good enough anymore for me to just use one letter. Okay? And then the last one, let's look at this last one. It's UWV, and 42 is right here in the middle. Okay? Same with VWU. Okay, so that's how we name triangles. And I know y'all did this last year, but it's really important, especially now as we start getting into more complicated triangles. The same thing happens here, and we'll talk more about how to actually solve these problems in a little bit. Okay, well, in the next video, actually. Okay, so now parts of a triangle. Okay, so now that we're dealing with triangles, we have parts of a triangle. So we're going to start off, I'm going to start off by kind of almost covering this part up. And we have triangle FHG here. Okay, it has three angles inside. We call these interior angles. Okay, interior angles are, let's just do this, the angles inside a triangle. And technically interior angles are the angles inside any polygon, but for triangles, which is what we're focused on, they're the angles inside of a triangle. Okay, now we also have this angle out here. So this angle right here is called an exterior angle. An exterior angle is an angle outside of the triangle. So, let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so if I were to draw a triangle like this, okay, so these right here, these three angles right here, those are my interior angles, okay? Every other angle is an exterior angle. So like if I look at this, this is an exterior angle. If I look here, if I look here, this is an exterior angle. If I look here, this is an exterior angle. So you see how many exterior angles I could have, all right? All of those are exterior angles, depending on which way I look at the triangle. So if I'm looking at it like this, then that's the exterior angle. If I'm looking at it like this, that's the exterior angle. So we have all these different angles that could be exterior angles. But the exterior angles are basically angles that are like formed by extending one side of a triangle. So you see how right here, this line, we extended this out past the corner here, and the angle that was created was that exterior angle. Kind of more commonly, though, we just think an angle that's outside, but it's an angle formed by extending one of the legs of a triangle. Okay? So, in the next video, we're going to learn about how these angles are related to each other. We'll talk about like we give specific names to these angles, these interior angles, depending on how they are in relation to the exterior angle, but we'll talk about that more in the next video. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is linear pairs. So you've heard of these as supplementary angles. Technically, any two angles that add up to 180 could be a supplementary angle. So if I had like, I don't know, let's say I had two parallel lines here. These lines are parallel, right? And this angle plus this angle, these two angles, I'm just telling you now, we'll talk about this more. These two angles add up to 180. So they're supplementary, but they're not a linear pair. A linear pair is two angles that add to 180 that share a side. Okay, they share a side, or that means they're adjacent to each other. Okay, so adjacent means next door. So for example, my classroom is right next door to Miss Lagon's classroom. Okay, we share a wall, so that means that we are a linear pair. Like if there was an angle formed by our walls, by the walls in the hallway and ours, we are adjacent to each other. Now Ms. Schulteis and I are not adjacent to each other because we don't share a wall. Even though we're across the hall, there are two walls in between us and a hallway. That means we don't share a wall, so we are not adjacent to each other. So in order for them to be a linear pair, they have to be adjacent. Okay. We also have complementary. So supplementary adds up to 180. And complementary adds up to 90. So there are two angles that add up to 90. So supplementary are two angles that add up to 180. Complementary are two angles that add up to 90. We're not really going to worry as much about this. This is something that you learned earlier, but this is kind of the stuff that we are going to be focusing on. All right, so that's all the prerequisite vocabulary I have for you. You're going to be using this vocabulary as we move forward in later videos.